I was in this airport one day on my way to Seattle to sell micronutrients to a distributor dealer down there, and his name was Ron Heath at Saddle Mountain Supply, and one of my big customers when I worked with in the vestige with Wolf Tracks. And I had just left the Rob Psych realm of Agritrend Network, and Darren Howie come running up to me in the airport. And he was in the operational role before I took it over, and at Agritrend. But then he came back by the way of a sales manager role and was leading the company in a new direction after I had done a bunch of the change agent work there. And sometimes the feedback you get isn't always from the CEO or the boss that hired you, but how people express it to you in the function that they're in and where they are and their time in life with the company and what they did and said while they were there and what did and didn't work. And then they're happy with you after your vestige with them. Well, that's what I saw in Darren Howie that day, and I maybe didn't realize it or take account of it that moment because I was off in my own hurry-scurry to get down to Seattle to rent my car to get to work off my plane and all that. But you know, he said he was very happy with how things were going and the position I left things in, and you know, it was really a big effort on my part, and I liked it. It's kind of a high note in my cap on this whole operational and business process improvement function. And so that airport run that day for me was a good run. I mean, in terms of him running up to me, and you know, they got repositioned at that time and into their future. They recently, as you know, got into a merger, part ownership relationship with a high-tech company out of the States, and their Agritrend network function is going forward. It's double the size even from where I left the organization, you know, back 8 years ago, and roughly 2008 I left, so 10 years ago. And I left it in double from the time I gained it in terms of their agricoach numbers and the way they streamlined their processes through me and my guidance and leadership, and took the team into a summit, the executive team, Elston and the boys, Chris, and you know, Darren gave some input from afar, and Rob was there, the CEO, and 2 days of hard work, gleaning out of them everything they wanted to do in their dream, their 30-year plan, and what it looked like 10 years behind them going back, and everything that they've been through in sort of their hodgepodge of everything, because it was all in one big cap, so to speak, you know, and or like hat, and they, you know, and so we reorganized through that. And that was a hard 2 days, but it was a hard 2 years of work. And but you know, the painstaking stuff you do, it rejets you forward in a new way to get to that next level. And that's where they are now. They got good things going on, and I admire these guys. I look at their strength and where they are now, and I think a feather in my own cap from that hard work. So that, you know, like, you got to decide, I guess, what you want to do when you look at a business process improvement market project, and that's what we do. One of our two main projects. And you know, Rob decided to hire me as an operational manager and put me in that function, and I got away with him where I could talk into his ear as a consultant, even though I was on the team, an internal employee, and see things in the whole organization that we had to fix and make him go forward, and that was good. But you know, a CEO under the board of directors would initiate something like this to change a whole company. And a lot, you know, there's companies that are doing good, obviously. Margins have been thin and tight. And you know, so companies, the really good ones, have afforded themselves to get very streamlined and good because they needed to, right, for their profitability. But a CEO has to decide, under the guidance of the board of directors in a publicly traded company, what is the budget you're going to spend on a process improvement function? Because, you know, this is a Tupperware container, right? In my language, It's an empty sour cream container, and it's a Tupperware container that stores food left over from your meal because it's empty. Well, you know, there's nice ones. You can go to the store and buy these nice flowery ones and very aesthetically looking, and that's a Tupperware container, and you spend quite a bit of money on it compared to this, where I just bought the sour cream and ate it, perhaps. But, you know, if the lid breaks, well, gee, you know, then this rubber band, you know, can hold the lid on, and that's still a Tupperware container, even if part of the lip is broke on the lid. So you got to decide what you want to do, right? You know, and I got a call actually from DJ, my new friend today, that I was telling you about last week. He's got 10 rooms left out at Bazzano. So anybody, you know, that's traveling through this week on business, he's getting fairly booked, but he's still got some left. And well, why would you travel through Bazzano anyhow, eh? That's a good question, and go to a hotel like this. Well, there's many reasons. I mean, you could be on a business trip from Regina, Moose Jaw area to Calgary, Greater Calgary, Strathmore, to see me, for example, to sign a new contract on a business consultant effort, or on to holiday with the family in Banff. We're on the #1 highway here, and you know, people do tie in their relational visits with customers and clients like me or others, or me vice versa on the supplier business holder side, and you're my customer perhaps, and do business, bring their family along. You know, why? Well, stopping at the Dinosaur Museum at Drumheller. Maybe they started through Moose Jaw, they went and toured the Al Capone famous tunnels of the, you know, mid-1900s. Who knows? You know, they might be just coming to buy a pair of shoes off Ron and Kelly here in Strathmore at the standard shoe store. You know, high quality ladies' shoes, and they got some men's stuff too. But people go on these nice little adventure trips, and Banff is one of the 7 wonders of the world right here in our backyard. So there's lots of reasons why you might be going through Strathmore. And DJ has a hotel for you if you just want a good night's sleep, no hassles, and that's it at low cost, $65 in current times, November 2018. And you know, if you want to break before you get to Calgary on your way through the city the next morning out to Banff. So that's a good idea, but there's different ways, and people do stop at the more expensive hotels too, and sometimes I do too. I want the $140, $50, $60 night too, where I got the Conti breakfast, and my room smells nice and might even be cleaner than my house. Do you know what I'm saying? My house is pretty good. But you know, you got to make your choices, and it's like that in process improvement, because when hiring a consultant like me, and we're good at this, I did 5 or 6 other projects as well, other than Agritrim. That was my big one that I led into. You know, I led it. That summit caused everything to happen that day in that Edmonton hotel. But anyways, it's only as good as the budget that you decide you're going to spend, because when we fix a problem, you can't really fix it half. You got to fix the brake so it's functionable, right? Well, what does the function cost you to fix? But then how many frills do you want, the nice to have stuff? Because that's where people get overrun in their budgets, and sometimes projects seem to go on and on. And I mean, you don't want that. Getting frustrating is not the way to go. You want your people rewarded. Back to work. We fixed the machine, we're going back. The system's in place, we're going to get back at it, we're going to serve our customer well. And that really, is the end goal. My 5 other projects I did in process improvement that I was part of, for me personally, I had high leadership, not in a formal role, but I was the informal leader. I was in the process improvement implementation team in the overall corporation, and they had handpicked me from the high throughput inland terminal as the general manager for my input, and I took part in 5 other committees that were a result of that. It was a lot of work. I mean, my family at the time in Davidson fell apart. People get into these issues of life, homes, hey? It's like we all have a personal life, and companies have to take account of that. I can talk more about that later maybe, but the extra workload people have, because it's over and above their regular job, right? You need the brains of all the people in your company, the key leaders and some of the key workers implementing stuff as you dissect it. And so that, I was a key player in that. But the Davidson high throughput, the new inland terminal model, they had used me to, I don't want to say I wasn't like I was under the microscope, I guess is the right word, watching what I was doing so they could remodel it, and not a lab experiment, but maybe a bit of that. But we ended up forming a high throughput committee team, and I was part of that as it kicked off. I didn't stay on it, because I went through a 3-year transition in career, and I ended up leaving into another role in a senior leadership role in Alberta, on the sales side. But so there was that. There was, secondly, my time in Herschel at UGG. I helped collaborate and build a malt barley model for export. We did a lot of export malt barley to China and Japan, and I had acquired a taste of knowing it had to be quick. You had to get these guys contracts quick right off the combine. We learned how to select it. We didn't even have to send it in to get standards met by quality control. We learned with our own eye to gauge it right on the combine. And we won a lot of contracts that way. Our biggest issues, we could have handled a lot more, but we didn't have shipping capacity. And storage wasn't huge either. We had to throughput a lot. And so that was a big business. And, in my time during these 3 other than Agritrend at UGG, I also helped out and led farmer shareholder-based committee change, where it became more regional from one little local, input unit where they were inputting information back to the corporation they dealt with as shareholder farmers, because they wanted it to succeed and it was important. And in change, we couldn't, no company would want to disband a model where your best customers are giving you feedback. You have a loud voice to say things that helps. And sometimes, you got to pick and choose some of the things you hear, because people get a vested interest in their own, it's got to be for the greater good is what I'm saying. But there was a lot of good. So I was part of that, leading the change. And you always want to hear what your customers got to say if they got good news. And sometimes the odd complaint helps you too, right? Because then you get better. And I was a part of a marketing operating committee in Winnipeg at that time. And other than my own function as general manager of the inland terminal in Davidson, Saskatchewan, I was on 8 separate committees, and my personal family life at the time basically fell apart. But you gotta go forward, right? And I moved on and chose a different avenue of career in that time of change. And I guess one of the highlights, even looking back, we had a opportunity, and I led this in the region there in the area for condominium storage. It's kind of like a condo where you live in it. Is different than owning your own house. It's just, we were selling condo units where customers could secure space in their giant inland terminal, so they had their own personal space. And anybody that was willing to invest money in that, it was like they had an extra grain bin on their farm right at the elevator. So it worked to some degree. We didn't get it perfected by the time I left, I don't think, but we got it started and kind of put an adage in place where people learned there was another avenue to market their grain. So that was my big process improvement initiative, Agritrend, and then my 5 other ones corporately with UGG that I was involved in or either informally led. But I guess, why would you deal with me in this as Bernie May at Connections Consulting? That's just a question that you'd want to ask yourself, because I have experience, obviously, and I led a big change with one organization outside of me where I was kind of brought up working in at UGG. And even in the time of my dad, when I used to be like a kid and go sit and watch him deal with customers, it was the same company. I was the next generation, and I guess his dad, my grandpa before him even worked for the same company. So that's kind of unique in itself. But why would you deal with me? Well, often when corporations and companies and businesses and organizations hire a change agent firm, you want to go in and change your organization, make it better, improve it, process improvement. They hire an accounting firm or an IT firm or a controller function person that's worked as a VP controller, finance kind of stuff, or they hire a CEO of a company where he disbanded and left, and he's now on working in a consulting role. And so I've never been a CEO until I'm now the CEO of my own company. I worked at high level, upper mid management level roles in all my organizational background, and even like a national account director was with key executive accounts, dealing with CEOs at that level, vice presidents of sales and marketing and human resources. So dealing at that level, but holding the responsibility. I've never held the responsibility, but you're hiring some of these firms with the 4 ideas of who I suggested to you. Well, what I have to offer, I guess, as a general manager of an inland grain terminal and crop input unit, we were doing about 4.5 to 5 million. We were just getting into the market in crop inputs, and about 25 to 27 million dollars worth of grain commodities when you look at their revenue value. So from a revenue standpoint, in that local Davidson region of about a 50-mile radius, I was doing about $32 million in revenue a year. Well, some companies, I've worked for smaller companies where their annual sales were $7-8 million. So, as a general manager in that role, an employee of a larger company, managing my own independent business as a hub, about $30 million. So like 32, that's like 4 to 5 times bigger than some of the smaller companies that a lot of people have even, and do quite well and are successful. So a lot of clout and experience there, and organizationally how to interact. And then secondly, my big revenue stream in terms of organizational clout and interaction and behavior would have been managing, giving senior leadership sales coordinator role to those 83 locations in Alberta. And the company I was with back then, UGG, was doing about 1.9 billion in revenue a year, and the Alberta share of that in the revenue function was about 3/4 of a billion, so 760,000. So that kind of leadership, you're looking at a sales guy. So these other people, a CEO may, he'd obviously probably know the sales function. He's the top dog of the heap, leading the VP of sales and marketing. Your controller would know the finances. Your IT guy would know your computer systems and how they interact, and your accounting firm knows how to keep track of the numbers. You want a veteran, a vetted sales guy to show you how to create the revenue, but who also has had some substantial time working with profit and loss statements and budgets as well. So that'd be why you'd hire me. And you could either hire me in one of 2 ways in your thinking or your stream of thought. My proven track record at those levels, and hire me for your whole organization to take this project on. Or just hire me, secondly, to improve your sales area, a sales business, a business improvement on your sales function, because I've got a realm of that galore. But the one at AgriTrend was an operational thing. And, when you get into process improvement, it's different kind of work. Every other thing I do, it's a different kind of duck. The training is all teaching, talking, just and getting principles out, helping management flow it back into your own corporation. And the market project we were talking about before, the Go project, where you go and grow the market and build it. I mean, that's all a sales function as well. This is very operational in its dissecting of firms and helping them, get back on track and get up where they want to be, fill the gaps, connect things, make it work. And so why would you want to do this? Well, I guess you got to know, you'd want to know, what mountain are you going to climb? Before I get the progress report from you, where you're at, when I sit down with you, I'd be asking you, how's it going? But you'd have to have a clear picture of what mountain you're going to climb, where you want to go with your organization, where are you today, but where are you heading? Because we're always working in two worlds, right? And it's like the reality that we're in, but then the principles or the adages that we control in our minds and in our heart and in our vision and hopefully in our systems and processes. That's our goal. But the reality of how, that's what we want. That's what it is. But then how we see it, how we see it happening, the reality, they sometimes don't match. So, we look at you and we say, okay, this is your mountain you want to climb once we hear from you. And that's what we really want, is we want you to do the work you want at CCI, Business Process Improvement, and we'll hear you. We're going to listen to you. I have knowledge about how things work, and and you can see. But you still, and this is where I come from, we're going to hear you because your story matters to us, and you may have some unique or different thing or twist that nobody else had because of a unique scenario, and I can't tell you that until I hear from you. So I'm going to talk with you, and I'm going to listen a lot to what you got to say, and the first thing I'd want to do is meet with your VPs. Once you give me the protocol, here's what what I want you to do, accomplish for our firm. I want to go and sit with all your VPs and find out what's it really like in their world. You're hearing it from them, but what are they going to dissect and figure out when they get talking to me, like a new face? And I go back, a strange face, a new face, a new face. That's what I am, right? I will be a new face in your firm because you're leading it. I'm just there to help, to dissect it, firm, get it back on where you want it to go, get the new vision painted, and get the wall full of, get the charts up, get everything working and going, and I get their brains picked and on the map. But I'd talk with your guys, your ladies, your guys, your CEO, tell me who the VP guys, the leaders are, women and men, and then hear their view about what they're thinking. And like I go back to the Darren Howie story at the beginning. Darren was internal, and he was part of these guys for a long time, and some of the things he wanted to accomplish operationally, everybody's got bright minds and smart, and you don't always get through, right? Well, they argue and debate things, and sometimes it's timing, right? A good idea. Look at Howard Hughes when he built the first commercial aircraft. And I remember, I heard when he died, he was born and he died in my lifetime when I was a kid. And he was he had no money left. And the thing hadn't taken off to the degree, well, Boeing Aerospace now is huge worldwide, manufacturing and selling airplanes. And I even offered a good friend of mine that works there that I'd come in and pinch hit and sell some planes for them if they want in some of the tough Middle East countries where people are maybe afraid to go into nowadays. But they still have flights flying in and out of those countries, chartered flights. People need to travel, see their family. A lot of them have immigrated to Canada, Western Canada, right here in Northeast Calgary alone. We have a huge population of Sikh and Muslim people. I mean, family likes to travel. We go more than 40 or 50 miles nowadays. So I told her, I said, I'll come in, I'll sell planes. I'm not scared of anybody. And that's the truth. But on a side note, that is, and back business process improvement, once you know and your new face is there, the new face can sometimes accomplish things that people have been arguing about and going around and going around. And the new guy, all of a sudden, it is the breaking point, the timing. This change has to happen now or it's not going to happen at all. And that's the news none of us want to hear, because when it doesn't happen at all, it may be your doom, clock ticking, and then you're out of a job, you're out of a company. Like, do you want to retire here? Nobody wants to be told they're an ass at all. Nobody. And why hire a consultant? Hopefully he's going to have the pleasure with you, being your friend, that he can talk to you frankly, and you don't have to feel like an ass, but he can point out the flaws liquidly with you, right in your ear as you're going, and you can get a new game on the map on the wall, and you can go forward the way you want. Design, process, flow, we're going to do all that. We have a way, and we basically take your whole organization and flow it through 4 boxes or compartments as we categorize everything that you do. And business function is almost similar anywhere you go, in that there's operations, sales, administration, accounting, human resources, sales and marketing. You're the same. You get this. What we do, unique in our kind of hurricane method of tearing up the old and then rebuilding the new, is we look at your company through 4 eyes or 4 spectacles. Customer contact, number 1. Order, number 2. Organized organization, number 3. And customer execution, number 4. Now, what does that mean quickly? Because we're running out of time here. Half hour is almost up. Customer contact, all the things you do to initiate contact with your customer, get your marketing message out, your sales message, make the sale, all that. That's your contact. Your order, well, how do you organize yourself, your products, your services, logistics, your outflow, loans, servicing debt, all that. That's number 2, okay? And that's basically getting ready to get the pitcher on the mound, everything you got to do to get your pitcher on the mound to throw the ball. Well, your organized organization is your team. It's everybody in your company, all the administration, who's in the game, how does it happen to get ready for the game and get to the field, all the key players, who's on first, who's on second, who's on third. Anyways. And then fourthly, customer execution. Once the ball game rolls out and the play is made, are there any mishaps? What deals are going on? Loan payments, account receivable, bills of lading, execution of invoices, orders, sales slips, pickup books, packaging slips, transportation of dangerous goods, customer sign-off, money in the hand at the end, and that's where you want to be. So, that's what we do. Our brand, we have a brand, and it's on our LinkedIn. in this process improvement area of business, and it can be process improvement for organizations. It doesn't have to be just business. It can be humanitarian or government or the like, anything. But we've got 3 areas where we've kind of divided up our function. So you can pick what you want to do when it comes to process improvement. The big category is re-streamlining you and making you happen. But, and we call that the train momentum, in theme with our train and our launch at the station house and all that, Strathmore Station. Lantrazio defense, that's an ancient martial art term. You know, I'm a martial art guy, won a Western Canada bronze medal in a Zen karate competition with Lyle Cheney gyms at Red Deer. That was a big deal for me. I dabbled a bit, hey. Bit of a fighter, I guess. But I wanted fitness and, you know, keeps your mind sharp, the mental expertise, and that's good. You gotta have a hobby and you know. So what we do with Lantrazio is we track soft skills of your people so they can execute sales function better, customer service function. And a good trainer often will video you on the job or on the training session, but we're doing it in the workplace too when we do a contract with you if you want that. And then the third level of service being the partnership program, where you can tap into key benchmarking performance level functions with our 22 performance benchmarking and social internal website that you subscribe to if you want that service when you become a paying full-time and hopefully, you know, paying and return customer annually. You know, so that's what we do. And you know, just as I was talking about karate, I was going to mention as well, you know, that's a hobby I have. It's part of my fitness routine monthly as I go out and get my 3 little incubits or data bites of exercise every week, combination of walking and or gym and martial arts. And it's good to have a hobby. I mean, my dad had a hobby when I was a kid. He used to do paint by numbers sometimes. And we had a few hanging up around our house. Mike McElrath up in Red Deer, a friend of mine, does that. Hung one in, I think, Jakin's place up there, another friend of mine. But anyways, Jakin the Bacon. You know, actually Mel's building is where that hung. But my dad had them hanging. And we knew Dad was happy on his day off at work, painting. We weren't painting with him, but he was at home